the principle of rhythm. So with the principle of rhythm, we are combining two different principles of art. We are combining pattern, or more specifically repetition, as well as movement, okay? And I'm going to explain with words and also visually what this kind of means. So rhythm is the repetition of art elements to make the viewer's eye move throughout space. Okay, so what does that mean? Okay, repetition is when you have things happening over and over again, like triangles. Okay, and you are using the repetition of that item, whether it is a shape, a line, a color, okay, to make someone's eye move all over the artwork, or maybe to just a specific spot. Okay. Pattern, okay, I want to show you the difference between repetition and pattern, okay? Repetition is exactly the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over again. So like triangle, 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 triangle. The triangles can be a different size. They can be a slightly skinnier, fatter. As long as you're repeating the same kind of element over and over again, it is repetition, okay? It repeats. Now with pattern, it is a little bit different. It is when you have multiple elements, so, you know, more than one shape or more than one color that are as a set. So like I have big triangle, small triangle, and I have that little set repeated over and over and over again in a very predictable way, okay? Repetition doesn't have to be in a straight line like it is here in an example. We're going to see that later on in some artwork. And then we have flowing rhythm, okay? So when we talk about rhythm, okay, that's when you combine these two things together, repetition and movement, okay? So repeating triangles over and over again, but they're getting bigger, getting smaller, and we'll talk more specific about what flowing rhythm means versus other types of rhythm, okay? So repetition, the same thing repeated. Pattern, a set repeated in a predictable way. And then rhythm is having a line, shape, color, whatever art element repeated in a way that your eyes move either like across the left, up and down to a specific spot, okay? And we're going to talk about a couple of visual examples right here. So these are all 4 different types of examples of rhythm, okay? Now, we're going to go through some specific names for different types of rhythm, so refer back to this slide when you have your rhythm worksheet out, because it's going to help you sort of identify the types of rhythm that there are, okay? So this is where you're going to look back on. So our first type of rhythm that I want to talk to you guys about is called flowing. When we talk about flowing rhythm, look at how the artwork looks like waves, okay? Going up and down, going across the page from left to right, okay? With flowing rhythm, you have whatever art element being used, in this case it's line, sort of gently moving across the page, whether it is left to right, up and down, diagonally, but you're just flowing from one end of the page to the other end of the page, okay? Imagine like even like a heartbeat, okay? That would also be a pretty good example of something that has flowing rhythm, okay? Progressive rhythm is when things get gradually bigger or gradually smaller, and it leads you to a specific spot a lot of the times. So in this example, we have a bunch of squares. Okay, so we have repeating squares. And as the squares get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, you look towards the center of this artwork because of it. Or maybe you're leading right off the edge of the page. Okay, it depends on whether it's getting gradually bigger or gradually smaller. In this example, it could go almost both directions, okay? So if I had a square, and then I had a slightly smaller square, and then a slightly smaller square, and then a slightly smaller square, that would be progressive rhythm. Something's repeating, but as it repeats, it gets bigger or it gets smaller, and it's leading my eye to a certain spot. Alternating rhythm, okay? To alternate means to like go back and forth. So left, right, left, right, left, right. So those are going back and forth, okay? So alternating rhythm is when you have an element of art. So in this case, we have shape and color working together here to make our bird, fish, bird, fish, bird, fish. It goes back and forth, and we are kind of bouncing around the artwork following this alternating pattern, okay? Then the last one that I want to talk to you guys about is called random. Okay. Random refers to the fact that there is elements that are repeated. So in this case, we have color and shape. So we have this swooshy, so almost like a funky colored rainbow thing here. We got that same thing right here. We got it right here. We got it right here. So it's repeated throughout the artwork, but what's being repeated isn't the same kind of like shape. So it's like it changes every single time, but your eye is going all over the place, bouncing, bouncing, bouncing. There's almost no rhyme or reason to it, except for there's a unity or like it's matching, okay, of colors and shapes. We also have like this scale kind of design, scale design, scale design, scale design. So I'm bouncing, bouncing, bouncing across the image, finding all the things that match, okay? So that's what we mean when we say random rhythm. So if you have any questions later on about these 4 different types, do not hesitate to ask me and I can help you out. So a couple artworks that we are going to talk about. The first is the Terracotta Warriors, and they are currently located in China, and they're created in 210 to 209 BC because it took a while to get them all put together because there are thousands of them. So terracotta is a type of clay. So these are clay life-size sculptures of Chinese warriors, Chinese lords, Chinese people that ride horses, so cavalry. You even have regular servants and that kind of stuff that are made out here. And if you check out the video about our terracotta warriors, you'll find that they were created by the emperor of the time. And rather than going with normal tradition where their servants and warriors and that kind of stuff were buried with them in their tomb when they died, he had commissioned or paid people to make these terracotta warriors that would join him in the afterlife. So rather than the actual people, he had these clay people created, and each one of them are very unique. So what we have here repeating, because we have repetition and movement that we're looking for. Here we have repeating, we have soldier, 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 and they all have their top knots. They have similar way that they're standing, similar type clothing. So we have that kind of stuff repeating, okay? And now about movement, okay? That's a tricky one to see here. But if you walked into a room and you notice that everyone was standing just like these warriors are, what you gonna do? That's right, you're gonna look behind you. You're like, where's everyone looking at? What are you looking at? Okay, because you have movement that's created by the direction that people's eyes look, okay? Not only in art do we use like, line to show movement or shape to show movement. We also use figures in our artwork to make us look in the direction that they are looking, okay? Sometimes they're leading your eyes to someone else in the image, or sometimes they're leading off of the image, kind of like how it is in this one. But if you're actually in the physical space with these warriors, they're all looking the same direction, which I am assuming is towards the emperor. Kind of the important thing here. Here we have Rene Magritte. He is a surrealist painter, and he created this artwork in 1953. And we don't have to go too much into it because I'll be sharing a video with you guys. But we have things repeating and movement kind of going on. And I'd probably say this is kind of, I don't know, is it random? Is it flowing? It's a little bit of both, okay? What we have repeating is we have these people repeating, okay? Some of them are getting big, some of them are getting pretty small. Look at that tiny one in the background, okay? So we have the men that are repeating, falling from the sky, suspended, going upwards, not really sure, okay? But we have them repeating and the sizes are changing, and we kind of have this sort of up and down motion that we're kind of following. So I guess it would be more of like a flowing rhythm going from one end of the image to the other end, okay? So that's kind of like how the rhythm works in this one. Then we have Wayne Thiebaud's pop art work in 1961. Wayne Thiebaud was famous, still is famous, for creating paintings that illustrated things like pie, candy, ice cream. So like, those sweet treats that we absolutely love. You go into a bakery, you go into a little convenience store, and you have all the treats that you really want, okay? And he would create paintings based on how they're displayed in the store. And he noticed that there is this crazy rhythm that is shown in the way that they organize the items. So you have a line of cherry pie, a line of the chocolate pie, a line of pumpkin pie, a line of the lemon meringue pie. Okay, so we have these lines that are created through these repeating pies. And they're all different types of pie. They're all kind of different shapes. Some are taller, some are shorter. Okay. If we continued this image, things get smaller as they get further away. So they would get smaller and smaller slices of pie as they kept moving upwards and far away. And they would get bigger as they get closer to us. Okay. So we have pie repeating. Okay. Not necessarily the exact same pie, the exact same size, but we have pie repeating. And they're also kind of like arrows pointing your eyes to look this direction towards the front rows of pie, okay, which is kind of cool. So that's how Wayne Thiebaud uses rhythm in this work. Then we have our final one, which is made by Grant Wood, and he has some random rhythm going on. Okay, can you spot the rhythm? What's being repeated? Okay, it's kind of tricky. But before we move into that, I want to tell you a little bit about Grant Wood. Grant Wood is a regionalism painter, meaning he painted stuff in his region, so things that he knew. So where do you think he lived? Yeah, it looks like he kind of lived out in the country. There's almost like a red barn in the background. Okay, maybe he's a country boy. You'd be fairly right on that. He came from Iowa, and you can actually go and still see this house. It still stands down in Iowa. Pretty cool. Anyways, so we have a couple things that are repeating that are allowing you to jump throughout the piece and be able to appreciate things that are in the front. So we have our figures and then the people, stuff that's in the back. Okay. So we have sort of like this polka dotted design that's going on in our windows. Oh, never mind. I'm talking about lines right now. Okay. We'll talk about the windows later. Okay. But notice like the vertical lines on the house. You also have the vertical lines on the barn, the vertical lines in the pitchfork that he has, the vertical lines in his shirt. Okay. You even have some vertical lines in the roof of both the house and the barn. Okay. So you got sort of all these lines going on. So the repeating lines. Okay. Then we have this circular brooch, that polka dotted kind of design on her dress. We have the circular design, the polka dots on the window. We also have, look at the trees in the background. They look like, like broccoli. Okay. They're very round. Okay. So you have these repeating lines and repeating sort of like circular motifs going on. And that's kind of like a way to tie this artwork together. Okay. Also his glasses. And also a way to help your eyes being able to jump around and experience the whole artwork. So this is how rhythm kind of works. Repeating things all over and over again to create movement. Okay, so trying to make your eyes move throughout the piece.